should be repeated because it's crazy that it has happened for being the NHL's all-time goal leader. Alexander Ovechkin has never scored a playoff OT goal. As the puck comes toward Beauvillier, Ovechkin was in the vicinity, and a shot here from Beauvillier. It's hit, they score, and Ovechkin got it! His first overtime game winner! Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Montreal! As my 2-year-old would say, calm down, Dada. What are you doing? Lots of yelling, lots of screaming as Alex Ovechkin coming up with the overtime game winner in Game 1, leading 1-0 in the series. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Rink Report. He is Tarik El-Bashir. I'm John Walton. It's brought to you by PenFed Credit Union. Great rates for everyone. For all of the moments that Alex Ovechkin has given us this season, and it is awfully tough to say in a year that he got $895 that could have topped it. It didn't top it, but he hadn't done it in 20 years, and it got the Capitals a badly needed win when it looked like it might have been slipping away inside of that last 10 minutes of the third period. Huge goal, Caps lead in the series, trying to go up 2-0 tonight.
John, it's so crazy to me that Alex had never scored an overtime game-winning goal in the playoffs. I mean, for all the goals he scored in overtime in the regular season, one of the best to ever do it, to have never done it given all of the OTs that this Capitals team has been in over 2 decades, it was surprising to me. I guess I knew it in the back of my head, but I'll tell you this. You look at his stat line for that game, a 39-and-a-half-year-old. Power play goal, overtime game winner.
He was terrific all the way
9
through.
shot attempts. Yes. 7 hits, which was more than anybody on the team. I saw a really funny clip yesterday of Cole Caulfield, who got thrown in the corner by him, and they said, well, what's it like to be hit by Ovi in playoff mode? He was like, I do not recommend it. I got a pretty good laugh out of that. But, I mean, look at the emotion he's playing with there, those celebrations. I mean, again, 2 decades in, he still celebrates every single goal like it was his first in the NHL. And that kind of leadership, that type of emotion, that type of energy, it just rubs off on everybody else, on his team, on the bench, even in the crowd. I love to see it.
We've talked a lot on this show this season about all of the moves that the Capitals have made and hockey operations pretty much batting 1,000 going back to last summer. And that absolutely true, too, with the one big move they made at the trade deadline, and that's bringing in Anthony Beauvillier, who right behind Alex Ovechkin, 1-1A, an incredible game, the high-danger chances, and I know you're a big analytics guy.
Yeah.
Nobody in the first 3 days of the Stanley Cup playoffs generated more individually than Anthony Beauvillier did, and that is a statement. And look at that. I mean, as far as what he was able to do, he's a playoff guy. This is what he does.
You're exactly right, and that's why they got him. I mean, if you go back to his time with the Islanders, he had 2 really, really productive runs with him. There are just some guys whose game lends itself to this time of year. The energy level, the intensity level, the competitiveness, everything rises about 20%. Some guys can, bring it up a little. And then there's some guys who just like, you know what, this is what I was born for, and they're able to meet the challenge. I talked to him about it just a few minutes ago in the dressing room, and it was funny. You could tell when he said it, he was like, oh, I didn't mean it to come out that way, but he was like, I don't know, man. I love this time of year. I play a little harder. I mean, that's essentially what he said. And, for a guy that's his size, I mean, 5'10" is probably generous. 175 pounds. He's a dog on the bone, man. He goes to the hard areas. He competes in front of the net. That's where games are won and lost in the playoffs. He goes to the corner. I mean, just go back to the game winner for Ovi. I mean, that was retrieving a puck in traffic and making a quick decision and getting it right back to number 8 for the game winner. I mean, kudos to Chris Patrick and Brian McClellan for identifying him as the type of guy that could help them win in the postseason, and it's already paying off.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to him for a little bit as well, and I think he's up a little bit too because he's from just outside Montreal, and seeing that logo on the other side, that certainly doesn't hurt either.
Contract year too.
Little bit of time that came up just a little bit ago here with Spencer Carberry. Tarik actually leading off the press conference and asking about injuries. And watch, kids, it doesn't go very well.
You'll find out tonight. No real update on either guy.
Sure. Yeah, the Keys yesterday, the players were being back on the Washington D.C. said that he's a really competitive guy, describing himself as that. Just How much do you see him stepping up these terms? And what does it mean to him to be able to?
Yeah, I haven't read the article yet. I saw that I saw it come across our media stuff, but as far as Stromer, I mean, he's found a home here in Washington, and he's done a tremendous job in my time here, not only with his game, how much it's grown and how he's become a top centerman in the National Hockey League, but just also his personality, his leadership skills. He's become a massive part of our team, and he has a bunch of different qualities, and one being specifically to what you talked about is he's a very, very, which sometimes people don't get that, because when you're around him, he doesn't come off as an intense competitor, but he certainly is, and wants to win so badly and wants to do well, and is always in a pursuit of getting better, and he's got such a high individual motivation level for himself. So was glad that we were able to get him, and now Washington is home for him, and hopefully he's here for a long, long time and ends his career.
What have you made of Ryan Leonard in his first games, especially now as he's adjusting to the playoffs?
I thought his first game in the playoffs was good. I thought he was did a lot of good things with his opportunity. I think for a young player to play in their first NHL playoff game can be daunting, can be nerve-wracking, and I thought he handled it real well. He's been on a journey now over the last month, having played in since his season ended at Boston College, played in his first NHL game, played in some road games, played in O's record chasing games. So there was a lot. He's been through a lot, and I think he's, the game and the NHL, it's such a tough league, and for guys to step in this time of year is not an easy thing to do at all. At 25 years old and at 20 years old, the age he's at. So he's earned his opportunity inside of our lineup, and he's earned the opportunity to be out there with our guys, and I just expect him only to get better and better and better and better, even as games go by, to your point of just getting more experience and feeling more comfortable.
Tom? How do you think the matchup with Suzuki line went in game one? They did get the tying goal, they had some chances with guys.
I thought it was okay. I mean, their numbers are high, and I will say this too, going back through the game. So the narrative is this: two things with Suzuki's line as a significant advantage, expected goals wise, and then also the third period looks like a very lopsided period as well for Montreal. If you go back through the film, our third period, the first 10 minutes was excellent. We get the first 5 chances of that period, so we outchanced them 5-0. I think through the first maybe 8 minutes of the period. So we're going. The penalty and the goal thereafter changes the momentum in the game, which can happen in the playoffs. The margins are thin, and that one shift that they score makes their numbers go through the roof. I think they had maybe 8 or 9 shot attempts in that one sequence, and then they get 4, I think, grade A's in that one sequence. So, you take that one shift out of there. Now, it's a big shift. They score there. They generate a ton of activity at our net. They have 2 lines hemmed. And if you look, too, it's what I talked about the other day, is something that we are going to have to get comfortable with is them playing. That line plays long shifts. Those guys have engines. And what I mean by that is they played through 2 lines in that shift. So it goes from 45 seconds, whoever's out against them, Dowd's line, Dubois' line. So Doobie's already changed by then. And now you got other people coming on, and they're still countering and going quick up and able to sustain that pace of play. So it's something that we have to be aware of. If they're going to take a minute 20 shifts with their top line, is we have to be able to stay dialed in with multiple lines, not just one line that's going to be able to match up and handle them. And I thought that played a role in that sequence there in the third period that ties the game.
As far as the lineup goes, we found out yesterday that Martin Fehervari's springtime is over. Unfortunately, surgery on a meniscus. He's going to be out, and that is a devastating blow. Alex Alexeyev will play tonight in Game 2, despite missing a few chiclets after taking a stick across the face in Game 1. And when the rink crew is finding your teeth on the playing surface, that's not awesome. And he's able to go. He's a few less teeth for the effort in talking to the media this morning. He's all right, but maybe, the best thing is Alexei Protas shedding the baby blue jersey.
Right. That was big.
And still not ready, not going to go tonight, and I think it's a fair bet he doesn't go in this series, but you'd like to think if the Capitals can get through Montreal and get on to round 2, you got a chance to get Protas back in there. But just seeing him out there and taking another step forward, I was kidding you before, like Spencer Carberry's not going to really talk about any of this.
Yep.
But our eyes will tell us, and here we go, that he's out there, the baby blue is gone. Baby blue gone means that you're cleared for contact. That's great news.
That was definitely the most that he has done in these last handful of days when he's been on the ice. He did some skills work with Kenny McCudden. That was also a step forward for him. The next progression will be getting into a team environment where, he might get bumped by a teammate. Where he will press a little bit and do a little bit more. I tend to agree with you. I don't think we're going to see him this series unless the series goes 6-7, and hopefully it doesn't. I think the target will probably be more next series based on his injury and the timeline that we are observing, because again, we're not getting a whole lot out of the team, which is understandable. And to go back to your little jab earlier, if you're a Caps fan, you should be happy with that. Spencer Carberry learned last year he was an open book. He probably gave away too much information in the playoffs with regard to his lineup, with regard to his starter, with regard to injuries. And this year, he's keeping his cards a little closer to the vest. I saw a great comment on Twitter the other day from Jared Bednar from Colorado. He said, I don't give up my lineup in the playoffs because what's in it for me?
Yeah,
and really,
much.
what's in it for the head coach? If you can force the other team to spend 10 minutes preparing for a different goalie or a different third line or a different second line, you won that day. It's going to help you come game time. I also talked to Alex Alexiev, switching gears here. Poor guy, man. Missing 3 teeth on the top left of his mouth, chipped teeth on the bottom. Told me he's going to be wearing a Bauer bubble for the first time in 10 years. He actually said he wore a cage the last time he had full face protection. He's never really worn a full Bauer bubble. So he was out there today just trying to get used to, seeing pucks in his feet and getting used to the breathing. It does fog up a little bit and those types of things. But, these guys are warriors. He'll be out there. By come game time, you won't even really notice he's got something extra in his face. He'll play just as hard.
I did ask Spencer Carberry this morning and talking with him briefly for radio tonight about what was the moment where Logan Thompson and the night that he had in Game 1. I said, at what moment did you feel like, okay, we're good here? And he said a glove save in the 4-on-4 and others maybe along the way too, but really felt like he was right. Just go up, just dialed in, feeling pretty good about things. He's going to get the start here in Game 2.
Yes, he will.
And in trying to figure out who was going to go in Game 1, and they weren't really tipping hand on that either, but this made sense because Charlie, I thought, was playing very well. He's still very much an option in this series, but you had to get LT back into it, and I thought it was the perfect game for him because he got a lot of pucks to him. None of them were very difficult in the first 50 minutes to be able to get those touches, get back in the groove. It was a perfect night for him to get back in there, and he ends up with a Game 1 victory.
Yeah, and if you look at his analytics, goals saved above expected, .36. That's 7th best of anyone who's played in the playoffs so far. Slot save percentage is a big number in terms of how dialed in your goalie's playing. Those are where the goals come from, especially this time of year. .857, that's 5th best in the playoffs. So as long as he is top 10 in those really important categories, that means he's playing well and he's giving your team a chance to win. And he was top 10 and even top 5 in most of those metrics.
One of the things that I want to talk about, too, before we get to Katie's chat with Brandon Duhaime, and that'll be here in just a minute, Carolina, there was a little bit of hope last night. New Jersey got the game's first goal, but I don't think the New Jersey Devils are going to win a game in this series. And I think if Carolina ends up sweeping, not to put too much pressure on the situation here, but if the Capitals end up going long in this series,
my God, man, are we already looking at the second round?
You have to at least look at the fact of what's going on the other side. Don't take your foot off the gas. If you're Washington, you've got another home game here tonight. Get up 2-0, replicate what Carolina's doing, and Montreal is going to come out better tonight. I don't think there's any doubt that their start and Spencer Carberry talked about this for radio with me tonight too, you're going to get the best thing you're going to get from Montreal. They had hope and life after what happened in that last 10 minutes. They know that they're in this series, even though they lost that game. They're going to come out even harder, and you've got to be ready for that right from the jump tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's something that Carberry addressed a couple of days ago was, you wanted to take that belief from them right away and just make them feel like, oh, man, this is a David versus Goliath situation. And for a lot of that game one, the Caps did make it seem like just vastly superior. We're bigger, we're stronger, we're deeper. This is gonna be a long night for you and probably a short series. And then they came back and they tied it. Look, I'm not in the Habs room, but I know if I was in the room, I'd be like, boys, we almost pulled off a massive upset. We were right there. Let's just do the third period all over again in game two. So they probably have a little bit more belief and optimism about their game and where they are in the series, even with that game one loss. So I think it's going to be incumbent on the Capitals to, again, come out the way they did last game. 20 hits in the first period. That was their highest hit total in a period for the entire season. They got to come out physical. They got to push those guys around and, again, remind them that this is 1 versus 8, and we're not here to mess around.
Yeah, I really believe all of that, and certainly going to be very important when this game two gets started. When the Capitals got Brandon Duhaime last year, you knew that this was a guy that was going to live for this time of year. Tough to play against. A nice compliment standing alongside Nick Dowd at any point. Going to get a lot of ice time throughout this series. Katie had a chance earlier this morning to catch up with Brandon Duhaime.
He ate the lineup.
Well, Brandon, thank you so much for joining Rink Report today. Let's start with game one. Obviously, the forecheck and the physicality for that start was excellent. How did that kind of start set the tone for you all moving forward?
Yeah, I think our mentality going in was we wanted to play our game that we've kind of been playing all year, and it definitely starts with that forecheck and physicality for us, and possessing pucks low and kind of bringing the game in their end.
Montreal is a very skilled team, a lot of skilled forwards. How do you contain that momentum that they did gain in that third period and allow it to not transfer into tonight's game?
Yeah, I think keeping the game on their half of the ice is going to be key for us, especially against those top groups, making them defend and being hard and heavy on those guys.
Of course, it's none other than Alex Ovechkin with the heroics in game one. For you personally, how much has it meant to you to be able to call yourself his teammate this year?
Yeah, obviously, just being a very, very small piece of his journey is pretty cool to have a front row seat to. So any night you get to watch him in live action is pretty special.
And on that note, we have to ask you about the nickname Doggy because I think it came from him. Of course, you're the one that gets the team fired up, doing the lineup, eating the paper after. Take us through all of that.
Not really sure how that started, to be honest with you. Just a nickname that was given to me by O. I think he's got a lot of unique nicknames, and just kind of rolled with it.
Well, your style of play is exactly what's needed to win playoff games. How do you amplify that, especially when you're now unfortunately missing a guy like Martin Farivari, who also brings that physicality and that grit?
Yeah, I think just staying true to our identity as a line. A lot of it led by Dowder and the way he plays. So just kind of feeding off him and playing well as a line is going to be key for us.
You mentioned Nick Dowd. I know you're very happy to hear he's staying in Washington a few more years. How much has he meant to you as a teammate and a leader on this team?
Yeah, special teammate. The way he plays, you guys all see it, what he does on the ice, but what he does in the locker room for guys and the type of person he is it's truly special, and the organization's lucky to have a guy like that.
It was encouraging to see a solid start from Logan Thompson, especially after missing those last 7 games due to injury. If it is, in fact, him in net again tonight, how important is it for him to continue to produce the way he has back?
Yeah, I think his confidence is high, and he's been exceptional in the net for us all year, and he's going to continue to play well for us, and just a really good goaltender for us.
Last one for you, your first playoff game as a Capital. What'd you think of the atmosphere, and how much fun did you have?
Yeah, it was awesome. I think that was a big credit to the fans. Was the momentum we had in the first period was we fed off the crowd, and I think that was key for us.
Well, thank you, Brandon. Should be another fun one tonight. Good luck.
Thank you.
Can somebody please get Brandon something to eat? Is it too much to ask? Brandon Duhaime with Key here. That was quite a piece of cinema there as he ate the lineup card. And, let's get another look at that. This is, you know what? I mean, they usually have a lot of food. They call it the Never Hungry League for a reason, but apparently Brandon is always hungry.
Look at Ovi.
Listen,
Ovi just calmly in the background, just walking out of the room.
That's all you want is to be able to have a guy like that in your room this time of year.
Absolutely.
That is truly amazing. Brandon Duhaime. Let's talk a little bit about what we are looking for here in Game 2 and more of what happened in Game 1, please. The Capitals, in the first period, they out-hit them, as you already noted, by a wide margin. And we'll talk about Montreal's lineup before we leave here. They're going to go with the same lineup in Game 2, and quite frankly, I think that's a mistake. But we'll tell you about why that is a mistake. Good for the Capitals. But as far as the forecheck, forcing pucks onto your sticks, getting going in the offensive zone. I thought the forecheck for Washington was as good in that first period as I'd seen it all year. They carried into the second period. The Canadiens, you've got to take that physical investment in the series. Caulfield just taking a hit in Game 1. He's taking a hit. But if you continually hit him, continually hit Suzuki, take away the will and want, not just for Game 1 and Game 2, do it for Game 4. If it goes to a Game 5, make it miserable so these guys are feeling every bit of what goes on in the series. More of that for the Capitals tonight, I think, is the most important thing.
I agree. And, there's a reason why the Capitals were the best team in the third period all year long. They're also the biggest team in the league, right? And so for 40 minutes, they, for the most part, are running and pushing other teams out of the game. And then when the third period comes around, the other team has a lot less to give because they've been drilled into the inboards repeatedly by forechecking forwards, by bigger defensemen. And, we've heard it's a cliche, but it's true. If you invest early in a series, it pays dividends later. If you invest early in a game, it pays off in the third period. So the Capitals have to use what, to me, is one of their biggest advantages. I mean, they are deeper. They do have better top-end players. They are better at the bottom end as well. That said, they are bigger and they are heavier than the Canadiens, and they have to use that. And for 40 minutes, we saw it, and then they got away with it. It was a cheap lesson there in the third period, but they kind of went into a little bit of a prevent defense. They started kind of rewinding a little bit and maybe started playing on their heels as opposed to on their toes, trying to protect a 2-0 lead. A couple bad bounces, and now it's a tied game going to overtime. So hopefully the Caps, they learn from that, and they will, for 60 minutes, play the same way.
Feel like, and we can only take the coaches at their word this time of year, but Martin St. Louis saying on the off day yesterday, going to be the same lineup. It's what they practiced with yesterday at Capital One Arena. And if that is, in fact, the case, the one thing that when you look at Montreal's lineup, and I think he is hesitant to change because they were playing so well down the stretch. Right. They only lost one game in regulation in their last 10. But if you didn't see the physicality that came against your team, and you have Arbor Jackeye sitting there, and Jackeye, he's not going to help you with offense. But what he is going to help you with is be able to have an answer, to be able to be physical on Washington. And if we can take MSL at his word, he's not going to play tonight. He doesn't want to change the lineup. That's the opportunity for the Capitals in this one tonight. Be physical. What's on the other side that's going to scare you? Honestly, not much.
Did you say MSL? Is that
yeah, we're tight.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, cool. I think you're right. I mean, there are two players on the Canadiens roster that are enforcer/pests. I wouldn't say Brendan Gallagher is an enforcer.
Tough player.
But he's a pain. He's a pain.
Yeah, no doubt.
Alexiev gave him a mouthful of his his stick shaft the other night. I thought that might have got him in a little bit of trouble. It didn't. Thank goodness. That said, Jackeye and Gallagher are the two guys that when they're on the ice, the other team has to kind of go, okay, where is that guy,
right,
just to be sure. And when you only have one of those guys in the lineup, and the Capitals have a lot of those guys, from a lineup perspective, I think MSL.
There you go.
Okay,
see?
Yeah.
It just rolls right off the tongue. It's good.
I personally would have put Jackeye back in there tonight, simply as a deterrent, simply as a guy who could mix things up and give the Capitals one more thing to think about. Tom Wilson's not worried about anybody who's on the ice right now. Put Jackeye in there, and now all of a sudden 43 is looking around a little bit, just to make sure that who's on the ice. And if they make that adjustment for Game 3, it might be too late by then.
Well, Capitals trying to go up 2-0 in this best of 7 tonight. You can see it, of course, in every game in the series here on Monumental Sports Network. Radio side, we got you covered on 106.7 A Fan. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Rink Report, brought to you by PenFed Credit Union. Great rates for everyone. MSL.